Today we have the instructional how-to video for the Randall concession trailer. We're going to go over the operations of your brand new concession trailer as well as the shutdown procedure. I've got your access door open, power cord going down through the cable hatch into my shore power. Right beside, located here, is the battery for the 12-volt lighting system. Right above is the fuse block, and then we have our battery charger. We have our 100 amp panel, all 20 amp independent circuits. Outside of that panel is a 25-foot power cord rated at 50 amps, 240 volts. Your freshwater tank is empty. I'm running on the city water fill. Once I finish this video, I will be winterizing by hooking up an air hose and blowing the water out of the system, making sure that nothing freezes. Still got the water heater on. Before I ever plugged the water heater in, I had continuous water flow out of both hot water faucets, or both sides of the hot water on the faucets. So again, city water fill connection, bypassing the tank and pump. If you choose to run, I do apologize. If you choose to run the freshwater tank, you can do so by using food grade water hose through this port right here. And this is the non-pressure side, so water pump on this side, pressurized side on this side. If you need to run any bleach or sanitizer to clean the tank, you can do so through this port itself. This flap does move out of the way to allow you to lock up so nobody can tamper with the hose connection on the trailer side. As far as your wastewater valve, you can hook up a 3-inch hose, RV waste hose, or you can hook up a 3/4 inch hose. Once you have the hose hooked up, this gate valve does pull out of the way and allows the wastewater itself to run out. Once that is complete, you will close this valve back up, remove the hose, and put the cap back in place. I'll make sure to get that water out of there before it potentially freezes as well. You do have remove this grease cap once a year. You got grease fittings behind the this grease cap to be able to grease the bearings. Again, once a year that needs to be done for a long-lasting life. Both of your propane tanks are strapped in place. They are empty. I, however, do have a live tank here that I have your equipment running at this moment. Again, you only need to run one tank at a time. So I'm only running the driver's side of the trailer. The trailer, the pipes are connected. You have 450,000 BTU 2-stage regulators on each side. Always have the cages locked, and if you choose to change the straps out, you can do so, but make sure those propane tanks are strapped in place for transportation. So when I turn the gas on itself, all of the equipment is in the off position. This valve is in the off position, and I rotate this to the on position only when the hood system itself is on. So you turn the gas on here, pressurizing all the way to this valve here. Again, hood system's on, all the equipment is in the off position. When you open this valve here, you're going to be listening through this regulator. If it's driver side regulator or passenger side regulator, the biggest thing is paying attention to that regulator. You should only hear a charge of the line, which is going to be nothing more than a ch, and that's it. If you hear continuous gas flow, immediately shut this off. Go back inside to make sure nobody accidentally turned anything to the on position for the propane. If that is still found to be in the off position, you will know at this point you will need to contact a local plumber to come out and inspect the piping. This piping runs down and below the trailer and hugs the frame, and road debris in transit, such as tires, rocks, blocks of wood, anything road debris can break and damage this gas piping. So again, be very attentive to whichever regulator you're turning on, making sure that you only hear the line charge and that's it. Nothing more on startup itself. Again, if you do hear continuous gas flow, immediately shut this off. Propane is heavy, so it will fill up the cavity very low first, and if a spark was to ignite and the pipe was broken underneath the trailer, there could be a very deadly situation. As always in transit, before you're in transportation, everything needs to be in the off position inside. Gas always needs to be off, and making sure that those tail lights are in working form. As far as your flip up counter, this does unlatch here. If you will use at the middle of, there's a screw right here, you can simply press upward and that will set up into place. Pressing upward again allows it to fold back down and collapse, and then you can hook your chain back up before travel. Concession door, I'll go ahead and open it. Hydraulic shocks that do open up and hold that door up in place. Go ahead and go inside and go over the equipment. Got your sink area up front. Getting 124 and still getting hot. Again, I made sure I had continuous water flow out of that faucet and that faucet on the hot water side before I ever plugged the hot water heater in. Go ahead and show you the plugs working. So that plug is the one over your worktop freezer, which is at -6 degrees at the moment. Plug under the concession window. We have our plug here at our sandwich prep itself. That unit is sitting at 32 degrees. And we have our fridge at 36. Inside the fridge itself, we have the paperwork for each of the deep fryers with the original legs. There's also the drain tube inside and paperwork for each fryer, plus the poker to be able to bust the crumbs through for draining purposes. We also have your paperwork for the griddle, your fire suppression system, and the fridge itself, along with the water pump as well. All of the packaging for the fridge, the sandwich prep, and freezer in its original contents. Do make sure that you take the time to read over the paperwork for proper cleaning and maintenance of your equipment. Located right here, we have the gas valve for the fire suppression system. Nobody other than a licensed fire suppression company needs to tamper with that box itself. You have the hose connection and shutoff valve for the deep fryer located here. We have the 48-inch griddle. Drain pan needs to be monitored daily. You got the connection for the griddle. Then you have the hose connection underneath the deep fryer for that back one. The exhaust fan switch is located here, and then you have your interior and exterior light switches located here. This grease cup here will need to be monitored daily as well. So what grease does not collect into the filters will drip down into the tray that runs at an angle into the grease cup. Again, definitely want to monitor that. Always make sure those filters are nice and tight so that grease can't go by up into the upper exhaust fan. Also, as you can see here, there is heat sensors. Nobody other than a licensed fire suppression company needs to adjust or tamper with those. Set up on quarterly visits for the hood system to be cleaned and maintained. I would anticipate cleaning the filters every day, if not every other day, with hot water and a mild soap, allowing adequate time for them to air dry. We'll go ahead and go over showing the griddle or the fryer itself. Again, I highly recommend having plenty of these lighters for lighting purposes. As you can see, the thermal pile is lit. Thermostat is in the off position. Gas valve is in the on position. I'll go ahead and show the operation, and then I will shut it off and show how it is for lighting purposes. So I'm going to turn this back to the off position. So at the end of every day, this needs to be the off position as well as this. How I always start off with deep fryers is on, off, making sure this thermostat connects with this gas valve. And at that point, you're going to push to where the L meets the red dot and allows you to push in. You have to push and hold here while administering fire to the thermopile. Once that thermopile is burning, at that point, you would continue to hold this till generally 10 to 15 seconds. As long as you can slowly release this knob and your thermopile stays lit, then you can rotate this to the on position. And at that point, whenever you're ready for a deep fryer, then you can turn the thermostat on to the operating temperature. Again, at the end of every day, make sure that's off. At the beginning of every day, make sure that it is still off for both of these. The drain tube does thread into here, allows you to open up to drain the contents every time before transportation. Highly recommend never traveling with oil in the vat. As far as the griddle itself, all of these are going to be in the off position always until your pilot lights are lit. As you can see, the pallets, there's enough gas coming out of them automatically that you never need to force light. What I mean by force light is never turn this on and administer fire. Always have in the off position before you ever, always make sure these are in the off position before lighting those pallets. Once your pallets are lit, again, long lighters, as long as you put at the bottom of that pallet, again, propane's heavy so it's going to fall, that fire will be able to ignite that pallet. Once you have your pilot lights going, then you can go ahead and turn those burners on to the desired temp for a safe operation of your griddle. I'm going to rotate over here to the last deep fryer so you can be able to see it operate. Again, we're in the on position. Our thermopile is burning. Again, at the end of the day, likewise, make sure that's in the off position, that's in the off position, and as well as the beginning of each day. I will be putting this cup right here in your fridge back here so that it does not slide around in transit. Want to make sure that that is put in there. Alrighty, so we have the fire suppression control head located here and the tank up next to the door located high. This system is live and ready to go. However, you will need to get it tested by your local fire marshal. So you'll have your local fire suppression company come out, your fire marshal, and do their testing. There is heat sensors, again, behind those filters. That's why we always encourage that exhaust fan to be in the on position, not only for the heat, but if the propane if the pilot lights were not lit and somebody was to accidentally bump one of those control knobs on the griddle, the vast amount of propane, if it was to fall, you might not smell it before it's too late. So again, this is going to pull it up and out. Again, the heat pulling it out because this system would automatically go off if the heat was to build up in behind the exhaust fan. Thus more, everything in that tank is going to extinguish out of the nozzles itself and create a big mess. As far as the AC and heat unit, definitely want to make sure keep it off when the hood system's on. This is pulling a vast amount of air. There's no reason to use the electricity and waste it on the AC and heat. That's generally used for prep and cleanup itself. Again, at the end of each day, do make sure that you go ahead and turn the gas off. Not only on the line, but also on the tank. It's never safe to leave that going. Likewise, always make sure those tail lights are in operational form, blinkers, brakes, running lights before transportation. Never disconnect your power until you have your exhaust fan off, as well as the AC and heat unit and anything that draws major power. Your refrigeration itself, they are not to worry about turning off, but anything else that draws a high amount of power, I would highly encourage it. As well as making sure those lights are turned off. It's not a bad idea if you want to plug it or unplug your water heater. There will be a separate video for winterization. The main thing is, do make sure that you have this unplugged if you are unsure if water is in that water heater, as it will damage the water heater itself. Likewise, it's always good to make sure that the lug nuts are good and tight, adequate air pressure is in the tires, turning off the water and disconnecting if you're on city water fill, as well as your wastewater hose. Just making sure that you do a good pre-trip inspection, pulling your power cord up into the lower V-nose itself so it's not dragging the ground. If you choose to run a generator while driving down the road to keep your refrigeration cold, make sure that you keep that power cord secure so it cannot drag the ground, as that is a very expensive power cord and not easy to replace in a quick moment. As always, make sure that concession door is shut and locked, as well as the flip up counter. We do thank you so much for taking the time to view this video. We make these videos for safety purposes and be able to help educate the customers that might have never operated a trailer before. If you do have any questions or comments, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. Also, if you have any new employees that potentially never have operated this equipment, it's not a bad idea for them to watch this for good safety guidelines. We thank you so much for your business and wish you the very best. Thank you.